Today on Strange and Suspicious. Brian Koberger is accused of brutally murdering 4 University of Idaho students, but something doesn't make sense.
How does one person who's never done this before, it's his first rodeo, walk in a house with 6 people, there's a dog, and one by one, he kills 4 of them?
This may be his first rodeo, it may not, we don't know yet. I think he was just so narcissistic that he felt he could just pull it off.
Spooky images haunting pubs.
Human beings aren't moving things, but things are moving.
I absolutely think that there are spirits that are haunting these pubs.
How many people in here believe in spirits?
Absolutely.
I have had an encounter with a spirit.
The Loch Ness Monster. Did it rise again?
Ecologists can't figure out what this matches of the aquatic life in the loch.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it. That is the Loch Ness Monster's daughter.
It looks like a mystery door in Antarctica. What's behind it?
There have been a lot of reports that Hitler may have had a bunker in Antarctica. If you're gonna do something super secret, you're not gonna do it in the San Fernando Valley. You're gonna do it in Antarctica. I am obsessed with the Idaho murders case. And there's something that doesn't make sense. Brian Koberger is charged with the murders, right? 4 people were slaughtered in this house with a knife. How is it that one person who has never, as far as we know, committed any kind of act of violence, how can they walk in a house with a knife, knowing that there are 6 people inside, and one by one, he kills 4 of them, knowing that there's still people left? I mean, you would think that people would hear screams, commotion, they'd come out, overtake him. So how does one person who's never done this before, it's his first rodeo, walks in with a knife?
You got a guy that is allegedly there 12 times, according to cell phone pings, in the months preceding. This kind of offender will mentally rehearse this dozens, if not hundreds of times in their mind. So this may be his first rodeo, it may not, we don't know yet. And he's got the element of surprise.
Well, there's a lot of evidence. The first 2 girls were most likely killed while they were asleep. The only person who I think had defensive wounds and might have been awake was Xana.
Was Ethan, her boyfriend, sleeping?
I think that Ethan was awake because he was in the doorway.
Right. He was awake. He is a much bigger guy than Brian Koberger and more athletic.
But also they had been out all night, they'd been drinking, they'd been having a good time. Their house is known for people to be in and out, so he probably was like, yo, what are you doing here? And next thing you know, he's dead. And I really think that he did it almost like a thrill kill.
And he has a very long history too. If you look back at some of his training in high school, he's premeditated a lot of this fantasy that I think he's built up. He was kicked out of a training program with law enforcement because of
something weird with these two girls who made an accusation.
So he definitely seems to have an issue consistently with women.
Not only that, Koberger, even months before the stabbings, he even broke into a female student's dorm just to move objects around, just to make her fear for her life.
But she wasn't there.
Right.
Okay, check this out. So this is the house. The number 1 is a bedroom where he killed the first 2 people. That's on the 3rd floor. Then he goes downstairs to number 2 and kills Ethan and his girlfriend in 2. In bedroom 3 and 4 on different floors, those are 2 people that survived. There's a bedroom in 6. He doesn't know if anybody's in 6. And by the way, there's a dog in 5. A dog can bite you. A dog can take you down. So he's walking in a place with 6 bedrooms. There are 6 people in 4 different bedrooms. There's a dog. There are 3 different levels. And you walk in with a knife?
But this is also a mass murder where you have multiple people killed in one location without any cooling off period. And most mass killers, that is their first event, their first and only event. I think he was just so grandiose and narcissistic that he felt he could just pull it off.
My theory, based on everything we know, is that he was potentially after Kaylee and Maddie. Kaylee's family says that he was following the two of them on social media, had liked some of their photos.
But also, when he was arrested, he requested a vegan diet. And both of those girls worked at a restaurant, like the #1 vegan restaurant in the area. So it's very likely that he crossed paths with them. He maybe made an advance at them, or he crossed paths with them and said, oh, they're close, I like them both, now I have a target.
If you're gonna commit a heinous act like that, wait till she walks out of the house and she's alone in the driveway. If he was there as many times as everybody says, you kill one person.
If they're awake and she sees you approaching, she's gonna scream and somebody's going to hear it. But if you wait till she's asleep and you attack while she's asleep, then you don't get a big scream.
He also entered the house on the 2nd floor. He surpassed anyone on the 2nd floor, went straight up to the 3rd floor, which is where Kaylee and Maddie happened to be.
But then he had to go downstairs to kill the other two.
The 2 girls might have been the intention, but the other 2 could have been collateral.
Well, okay, but wait a minute. If the other 2 were collateral, why is it that one of the 2 survivors actually walked down in the hallway and supposedly saw this guy, the guy with bushy eyebrows, and he didn't kill her?
I think that he didn't anticipate having to kill those 2 additional folks. And once when he did that, that's why he panicked, that's why he left the sheath, and he had to boogie out of there. And so when he saw that 5th person, he was like, I gotta just get out.
My dad owned a liquor store, and I worked in it. And I remember people used to come in all the time and steal stuff, candy or whatever. And I always thought that those people are the people that eventually rob banks. But they don't start robbing a bank, they start in my dad's liquor store. This guy started at the bank.
Quite a few serial killers actually start as burglars. They start as burglars, and part of the thrill is violating that private space, and they'll go in at night and just watch the victim and then leave. I mean, I've had cases like that, and they don't do anything, and they do that for a while, and then that's no longer thrilling, and then they escalate where they might take a pair of panties, some kind of trophy, and then that's the thrill. And then it might go into rape or killing.
Well, he made a lot of mistakes, which I think that points to potentially, again, going back to the theory that he was following these 2 other girls, Kaylee and Maddie, on social media. That's who he was after. Potentially he got no love from them. He felt rejected. So maybe the reason he made so many mistakes is he went in there with like blind rage.
See, the weird thing is, if you're right about blind rage, that doesn't align with stalking. Stalking is more intentional.
It shows purposefulness, that this was targeted. There was all this confusion at first. Was this some random act? This was not some random act.
I think he's a budding serial killer. This was his first kill. He's been planning it for a long time. This is but he's a sociopath, and so I think he is a budding, had he not gotten caught, he is a budding serial killer. In addition to which, the sloppiness with the cell phone, a real pro would have left the phone at home on, which would have then shown that, yeah, I'm at home, and had driven there. This whole turning it off and on right before is so stupid. It's unbelievable.
I actually feel like he wanted to get caught. If he was like a looked over incel his entire life, that could also explain why he had 2 other collateral casualties. I think he wanted to get caught because look at the attention he's got.
I got to disagree. When I've asked actual serial killers, did you want to get caught? They said, no, I just got sloppy. You can't think about everything, and that's the problem. These guys, they think they're so smart. They're going to prove how powerful they are, not just in what they do, but also in getting away with it, and they're never as good as they think they are.
Coming up.
There is this thing, especially in England, in pubs where human beings aren't moving things, but things are moving. Whoa.
What was that?
When you think about these old pubs, there are places where people party, there are places where people had a good time.
Got murdered?
Yes, right, but that's weird. I'm going to confess something. I have had an encounter with the spirit. I'll tell you about it in a minute. But the reason I'm raising this is there is this thing, especially in England, in pubs that are just freaky, where human beings aren't moving things, but things are moving. Examples.
That's pretty cool.
Whoa.
Wow.
Wait, one more time.
What was that?
Yeah, nah.
He's like, what'd you do to my drink?
How do you explain that?
I've actually had that happen. We were investigating a pub, and while they were there setting up the cameras, a wine glass in the rack came flying off and they caught it on camera.
Can I just say, from working in restaurants though, sometimes when you rack up glasses and they're hot and they meet something that's not hot, they tend to explode.
But why do they fall?
Well, sometimes, I mean, it's just the force of the explosion just knocks them over.
At the same time, some of them had very specific motions attached to them falling. Like, it wasn't like they were on the edge, it wasn't like they were imbalanced. They were just like here, and then it was like, ooh.
Right, but that's weird.
And if it was an uneven surface thing, more than one glass would fall.
Right.
I also think like pubs, when you think about these old pubs, there are places where people partied, there are places where people had a good time.
Got murdered.
There are places where people were murdered.
Yeah.
There are pubs that have prisons or underneath that people were in abysmal conditions. So I absolutely think that there are spirits that are haunting these pubs, maybe to have a good time or maybe it's for vengeance.
Wait, that is kind of amazing though. That's amazing. The idea of like my unfinished business is to finish my drink. That
That would be me.
I'm all for that.
And from a cultural perspective, England is a hot spot for ghost stories. It's very much ingrained
But
into
could
their
that be
culture.
motivated by money though? Because also like that drives tourism. So if I were to say
Very
like, hey
true.
everybody, my house is haunted, I could start charging $30 for a tour.
No, can we replay one of the videos? Can we see another video?
Yeah, let's play it one more time.
Uneven surface.
That's not an uneven
That's not
surface.
an uneven
Only
surface.
one glass fell.
How do you know?
That's temperature. That's a temperature shift.
Maybe.
A lot of those glasses were narrow and top heavy too, and you put them on a little bit of an angle, they're gonna go.
No.
Oh, I've got it. The bottom's wet, and you know when it's wet, it starts to slide.
But it didn't slide.
Well, I can see from your faces, I'm just observing from your faces, none of you have ever been on a paranormal investigation and had an object sitting there and watched it with your own eyes fly across the room. Until you see that, I think you should be silent.
Is the logical explanation that it's strings, that it's a hoax? Is that the idea? Because these videos, truth be told, they look like they're open for business. So it's a bit of a...
40% of people actually believe in ghosts and spirits, and 20% actually claim that they've had, personal kinds of encounters like these.
How many people in here believe in spirits?
Absolutely.
I do.
And how many don't?
I didn't vote.
Open mind.
I'm just going to tell you. In 1990, my partner died. Died at home, and it was really sad. And I lived in this house for over 8 years, and I never had this happen. But in the 2 weeks after he died, at 2 in the morning, the stereo would go on, and the lights would go on. And it only happened for 2 weeks after he died, and then it stopped. And it never happened before, and it never happened after, and it happened right at that time, and I wasn't imagining anything.
I'm open-minded to it. I would consider myself at worst agnostic about it. I think that how can we possibly know every manifestation of, human or other experience, in this world and be completely closed to it? Energy can never be created or destroyed, only change its form. So,
I think about this all the time when I think about, I'm like, if there is an afterlife, who's up there? Like, pilgrims?
I don't want to go up there, dude. I'm good. Take me out.
What are we going to talk about?
See, I would even argue this. I think you can not believe in religion at all, but believe in spirits.
Absolutely.
I'm more inclined to believe in that, something metaphysical or whatever, than I am in some book some people wrote.
some literal interpretation of what happens.
What we say in New England is if you ask a New Englander, do you believe in ghosts? They say no. But if you ask, have you seen one? They all say yes. So that's the way we handle it. Yeah.
Coming up.
Call me crazy, but I'm confused by these photographs of what some people are saying is the Loch Ness Monster.
In terms of perspective, this is really zoomed in. It really could be anything.
Well, there is a whale theory to this, right?
Right, the
whale penis.
the excited
You don't
whale.
have to do this.
Yeah.
Call me crazy, but I'm confused by these photographs this woman took of what some people are saying is the Loch Ness Monster. Before everybody says, oh, come on, what is that? That was in Loch Ness, Scotland. This was in the lake, and the woman who took this picture was not there to shoot the Loch Ness Monster, but she got this.
I'm gonna go ahead and say it. That is the Loch Ness Monster's daughter. I mean, the Loch Ness Monster has been seen for years and years and years. I believe that the Loch Ness Monster found a way to make a baby, and the Loch Ness Monster is still there.
There's a line of credibility to this because of the photo. She came out with this photo years after it was taken because she was afraid of ridicule. Yeah. These weren't photos where she was like a Nessie hunter looking for Nessie. She was taking photos of her family. That gives it an air of credibility that it's hard to refute.
Forget the photos, all right? Let's just talk biology. All right, so let's say in 600, somebody spotted Nessie, okay? Now clearly whatever we're spotting in this current century is the offspring of Nessie, which would then imply that back in the 600s, there would have been more than one, and then they would have procreated, and those offspring would have procreated, and without any major predators for Nessie in that lake, there would be a bunch of Nessies all over the place. And so when the marine biologists went in there to catalog all the fish that live there, they would have identified Nessie and the tribe, along with the salmon, the trout, and the eel.
Reserve your tendencies to shoot this down, okay? But I do study a lot of cryptids, okay? And my thing is, I've talked to so many people who've come face to face, credible people, like 10 foot away, of some large eel-like dragon, creature under the water, that I feel the phenomena is real. Okay, now how does it live there in a landlocked lake? I agree with you. There's gotta be some openness. The idea, hold on, this might be interdimensional. It might be there one day and it's not the next, okay? Because there's some sort of, I don't know, wormhole that it travels through. See, I knew you were gonna say that.
No, absolutely not.
The thing is that I don't know that what I'm looking at is Nessie, but ecologists have looked at this picture and they can't figure out what this matches of the aquatic life in the loch. So let's take maybe a more logical approach. Is it possible it's something that's known, let's say an eel, that could have mutated and looks maybe less like an eel?
It could be just a regular eel because they actually don't know how they reproduce.
Do the eels look like that?
And let's also just recognize that in terms of perspective, this is really zoomed in. When you look at it from without any cropping, it is not as magnificent as that, and it really could be anything.
Well, there is a whale theory to this, right?
Right, the whale penis. The excited whale.
I love a whale theory in freshwater, because isn't Loch Ness freshwater?
Yes.
So it can't be a whale penis.
But there's so much that we don't know about what's happening in the water. We haven't gone all the way to the ocean floor. We haven't seen everything that is hiding under every single nook and cranny in water. It's mysterious.
I don't think we know what most of ocean life looks like.
Exactly.
When you go way down in the ocean. How many new species do they find every year?
100 new species for the last 10 years.
But this is freshwater.
But the point is that we think we know everything, but we keep discovering new things.
Coming up.
This is in the middle of Antarctica, in this area where there's no evidence of human life. That looks like a door to something.
We do a lot of this, like in archaeology, right? We look on Google Earth for archaeological sites. And when I first saw this, I went through the whole checklist. It looks like a human being made this.
Do we think there are secret bunkers out in Antarctica? And if there are, what do those entrance points actually look like?
Anybody here been to Antarctica?
Not that I remember.
No, it's on my bucket list.
One day.
Most people have not, which makes me crazy wondering, what is this? This is in the middle of Antarctica, and in this area where there's no evidence of human life, that looks like a door to something.
I had originally thought that this was a bad stitch. If anyone doesn't know how Google Images works, it's a compilation of a lot of different large satellite images that are pieced together, and many times there are glitches. And sometimes it will create pockets or holes in the imagery which end up looking something like this.
We do a lot of this, like in archaeology, right? We look on Google Earth for archaeological sites. And when I first saw this, I went through the whole checklist. It looks like a human being made this. But then I was looking closer on Google Earth, and that is actually 200 feet long.
If it's 200 feet wide, then maybe it's extraterrestrial. Maybe a crashed UFO is underneath all of that snow.
But guys, when you see the full picture, it's a glacier that's being exposed, and the orientation of the picture is fabricated. It's actually flat on the ground looking up. And if you zoom out to see the whole picture, there are literally hundreds of other of these same pieces that are just to the right of it. You see all the other pieces. Yeah.
But I guess we could have that conversation. Do we think there are secret bunkers out in Antarctica? And if there are, what do those entrance points actually look like?
If you're going to do something super secret, you're not going to do it in the San Fernando Valley. You're going to do it in Antarctica because that's where you can get away with things and do things that nobody's going to know.
You know, like when I applied for a job there, it was like you needed a secret or top secret clearance. If no military activity is supposed to be going on, is it all science? And what is so secretive about the science? You need a clearance like that.
What were you applying for?
It was just an EMT, a summer job. Is there a summer there in Antarctica?
Who are you going to save?
The penguins. People that are working there. Penguins. Yeah.
But there have been a lot of reports that Hitler may have had a bunker in Antarctica. And I don't think that's been totally disproven.
Well, there's also something called the Antarctica Treaty, where there are a bunch of countries that have agreed that they cannot build something like what we're possibly looking at, a bunker.
The treaty, it's saying that they wouldn't do any like war things, but you can hold science and technology. I mean, it says that you can do research. So I think that it's an underground, super high-tech, super secret research facility. I don't think there's any like war or anything like that going on. There's no ammo down there, but I do think that the answers to all of the questions that we're going to have on this entire show is in that bunker.
Wait.
The answer said everything.